Welcome back, and we really do thank you for watching us today. We've got our city clerk, Brother John Thompson here. How you doing,
I'm
John?
great, Bob. Thank you
Yeah,
for
and
having
thanks
me
for
with you
coming
today.
in today.
It's my pleasure.
In this Chamber of Commerce weather we're having.
A little warm, but it is. There's
Yeah.
not too many clouds in the sky today, and everyone is circling around the square and busy in Andalusia today, so it's a great day.
A lot of people out buying Alabama and Auburn T-shirts. They were pretty busy at the
That's
store. I
right.
guess this is football weekend, isn't it?
It all kicks off this weekend. It'll be exciting.
There were a lot of people in Andalusia last weekend from Mobile. Came up for UMS, right?
That's right. We had a big crowd,
Big crowd.
from Mobile in town. It's always great to have out-of-towners visit us, and our football team is coming along. We had a little setback Friday night, but progress is being made. So
Well, I know that this is Wednesday and Thursday, and you had your first council meeting of this month on
that's right.
Tuesday
It's
night.
September. Today's the second, and
Yeah.
yesterday we had the first of two meetings in September was last night.
And October is when your fiscal year actually starts.
That's right. We're October to September fiscal year, and we're preparing our budget right now and getting our finances in order to present to the council sometime later this month or the very earliest part of next month at the very latest.
Well, there's a lot of talk about the state passing the budget. Does that state budget have anything to do with Andalusia's budget?
No, thankfully it doesn't. We don't depend upon the state of Alabama directly for any financial support. Certainly, we're all as Alabamians concerned with state finances
Right.
and the state budget, and there's a lot for us to be concerned about right now. But as far as the city's finances directly, no, we're self-sufficient, self-funded.
Does the revenue seem to be streaming okay so that our budget will be strong?
Yes, it is. I'm happy to report that all of our revenue streams are at or better than previous levels. We continue to improve. Our economy is growing. We have new businesses opening in Andalusia and a lot of interest in the future. So the future is very bright for the city of Andalusia as well as the economy as a whole.
Has the council been updated on the economic development, the retail strategy and all?
They have. They receive periodic reports from Retail Strategies, and Retail Strategies is at work as we speak. They represented us back in May at the world's largest retail expo, sort of a giant convention of retailers and developers and real estate people. And there's quite a bit of work done on our behalf at that. They had a very good presentation of Andalusia to share with their clients and potential clients at that show. So, and that's a lot of what we're paying them to do, is to market us and to market our economy and show potential retailers and businesses of the opportunities that they have in Andalusia. And they do that they also identify where certain retailers are already in business in places similar to Andalusia, and economies that are similar to Andalusia, and demographics and population sizes and so forth that are very similar to Andalusia, where those companies are successful, and they say to them, well, if you're making money or showing profits in those locations, here's another location for you. They do all their homework for them, so to speak, and sort of open the door and introduce them to us in that regard. So hopefully they'll consider locating here.
I hope so too. It says that you had a east side sidewalk project, and you contract with the state of Alabama. And is the state going to build it, or?
No, we will contract for this project, but the state's paying for it.
Okay.
Or for the lion's share of it anyway, 80% of it. So this is what the council approved last night, is a contract with the state of Alabama through the Department of Transportation. And it sets out the guidelines by which they will pay for the project. We have to have it engineered and along all of their guidelines. The plans have to be submitted. There's a timetable. All of the particulars as to how they'll pay for it are set out in that contract. And basically that's what the council approved, authorized the mayor to sign the contract with the DOT so that we move ahead.
Where is the actual sidewalk? Is this?
It's going to go down, if you go down Stanley Avenue now to the intersection at Lindsay Bridge Road, the sidewalk stops, I believe. It will pick up there and go out past Johnson Park, or the entrance of Johnson Park, and a little bit farther out on Stanley
Wow.
Avenue, probably to the near the cemetery. And it'll also peel off of or come off of Stanley Avenue onto Lindsay Bridge Road and go for a section out Lindsay Bridge Road. So it'll connect all of that fairly older neighborhood in town and
Yeah.
some new sections of neighborhood around the Meadowbrook Drive area. Pull all those, or give those neighborhoods access to sidewalk, and
How
give them
wonderful.
access to another main artery
Then
sidewalk.
that'll give you another 3
Exactly.
miles to walk.
You can walk from anywhere out there all the way into town.
To
in this
Winn-Dixie
direction,
or-
Winn-Dixie, go that direction, or come through town and go out
Church Street.
Church Street. You know, we're going to have a sidewalk project out that way connecting
Yeah.
Presswood Bridge Road that should be under construction soon. We don't have a
Okay.
definite date yet, but we should be getting that out to bid soon. So 2 very
Major
significant
project.
sidewalk projects coming. But this one that the council approved last night will be at least a year out for construction. But the west side one should begin within the next month or 2.
I'll tell you a walking trail that I discovered yesterday, actually over at Apple. They made a lighted trail from the old middle school up to Coleman Center,
Isn't that neat?
and it is truly beautiful.
It really is.
I saw
Wooded.
2 little deer over there.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And it's over on that's Baker Avenue, and I believe.
Right, C.C.
And,
Baker.
and that's the new Woodson Learning
That's
Center,
right.
and the Coleman Pool's over there. And in the woods, now you remember the hills?
Right.
You got, boy, you
Rugged
talk.
terrain.
That's really a good place to see how strong you are walking.
It is.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It really is. It really enhanced the neighborhood. It enhanced both the Coleman Center and the former middle school, now the Woodson Learning Center. And the programs there, it's a, and I know if you were there, I don't know if you had a chance to visit the Apple program
Oh,
and
yes,
see what
I
great
did.
things are going on there. That's a
I
phenomenal
also
program.
went and visited Mr. Watson's office.
Yeah, their
and,
new
oh
offices.
my goodness, that is just, I mean, really, they were just on top of each other before then.
They have for a long time outgrown the central office that's sort of behind City Hall on 6th Avenue. Many years outgrown it. You notice they've had trailers and additions to keep records and so forth out there, and it's been very insufficient for a long, long time. And as you said, stacked on top of each other in that office, so it was very inefficient. And they've gone into what's now the Woodson Learning Center, the old middle school, and created the superintendent's
And that
central
school
office.
is spotless. That was the library,
That's right.
that was the library when I was in grammar school. Is the city gonna use that for anything, you think?
There's some ideas, but nothing concrete. There's just some ideas being tossed around right now. One idea is for some sort of veterans museum.
Yeah,
The school board, I think, has indicated that they want to probably give it to the city,
yeah.
but none of that's been formalized.
Yeah, just
yet.
have to work stuff out still.
Just talk right now, but
Well, speaking of structures and buildings, you designated members of the Public Education Building Authority. Let's talk about that a minute.
that is a new authority that the council actually established at the last council meeting, was the one previous
Right.
to this one. And I'll tell you a little bit about the authority and what its job is. The Public Education Building Authority will have the powers and ability to construct and renovate school property at a much more efficient and quicker rate than any other entity, whether the school board or the city and school board together. It's sort of a hybrid that allows us to do things at a much quicker pace, and also it allows it to access funds and puts it in a position to acquire funds that we wouldn't be able to do otherwise.
Wow.
Puts it in a position to qualify for certain grants and assistance from state and federal government that we couldn't get otherwise if we didn't have this. So it's a real enhancement. Rex Jones has worked a lot of tireless hours on this and has assisted the school board and the city in organizing the public school building authority, public education building authority, and doing all the background research and so forth. And he's done a fantastic job, along with the Andalusia Bulldog Foundation Board. It's also committed to some of the athletic projects. There's high interest in the renovation of the auditorium. There's a lot of interest in school facility and sports facilities that'll be the emphasis for this building authority going forward.
That's
So
wonderful.
the very beginning stages of getting organized, seeking funding, that there's just sort of ideas about planning, about what could be done once this is created, but that's what they'll get to work now and establish a plan. First of all, they'll review and evaluate our facilities and see what the greatest needs are, whether it's the stadium or the auditorium or a combination, and prioritize A through Z, and then start identify what those are. The costs would be next, and then start looking at funding. And I understand that there's a lot of interest in potential donors. So
How about that?
you got to get organized.
Isn't
you gotta
that
get a
wonderful
plan.
that people, this is the most giving community I've ever seen in my life. and over again, we see it every week when we interview people. And you appointed Dr. Charles Eldridge to
That's
that.
right.
And
Charles Eldridge, Steve Posey, and Paul Sue Dubelt are the three initial, and they'll serve staggered terms.
there you go.
And their work now is to identify the needs of Andalusia City Schools and then start working on a plan and then seeking funding.
So those are
it's
three people
exciting.
that really have their heart in Andalusia, and
That's right.
they're all about making this a better place
That's
to live.
right. Those three know what we need in terms of educational facilities and athletic facilities, and they'll do a great job for us. They're all well known in the community, and
They've all given their time and energy for free for a lot of different
That's
things,
right.
old buddy.
all very familiar with our educational system.
They certainly are. They certainly are.
So that's a great move for us, and we're indebted to the service of those three people, and know that they'll do us a great job.
The big issue, it seems to me, was this unsafe structures and dangerous buildings, and the where you actually did an ordinance to, and it's a big ordinance, and it's
Yes, it is 21 pages long. It's rather detailed, but I will say this: it's fairly easy to read. It's not so much legal language in it that people like you and I can't easily understand
okay.
it.
That's good.
Not that we're not.
No, I definitely can't understand a lot of things.
But it is it's something that Andalusia has needed in terms of clarifying our abatement ordinance. We've had for a long time an abatement ordinance, and you probably, I know that you've heard the mayor and I on many occasions talk about abatements. We have a very stringent weed abatement ordinance that we apply all the time, and at the city council you hear it, weed abatements come before the council and they're approved and the properties are cleaned up. But we've lacked a cohesive unsafe structures and dangerous buildings ordinance. The existing ordinance was somewhat porous. It wasn't complete. And this has been sort of an issue for us for a long time. We've not been able to address certain things, some complaints that we've had in the past about certain buildings and structures and so forth, because we haven't had the legal authority to do anything about it. So this sort of tightens that up. There's also been some discussion about, we hired a lawyer from Birmingham to help us draft this ordinance, and there's been, in fact, I got one inquiry about why didn't we hire an Andalusia lawyer, so I'd like to
address that.
while we're talking about it. It's sort of a long story, but we were, I think the entire city council and the mayor and I were at the annual Alabama League of Municipalities meeting back in May, and the mayor and I and Councilmember Wells and Sconyers were attending one of these round table discussions. You may have attended some of those.
I think that's a great, I know I did that with the school board, and I tell you, Jeff Bailey, I'd never been to one, and Jeff Bailey took me by the wing and helped me. And, you know, you learned a lot talking to your peers that are serving on whatever board you're serving on. You know, they have some, what worked for them, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
It was one of those type things. And we, during the course of that conversation, were introduced to a gentleman who had, as you just sort of pointed out, had been through something very similar to this and recommended the law firm in Birmingham. One thing led to another, and we contacted him. And this particular gentleman who drafted the ordinance represents several small cities in the Birmingham, North Alabama area. There are a lot of communities that make up a periphery of Birmingham, around Birmingham proper. There's a lot of small places, not unlike Andalusia.
Right.
And he represents a lot of those. And Andalusia is not unlike any of these places in terms of unsafe structures, abandoned buildings, property, weeds, all the same things. We all deal with them. Right. It's a common thread. So anyhow, one thing led to another, and we met the gentleman from this law firm, and he made us a proposal to draft an ordinance, or basically sell us his ordinance that he had already prepared. And I kind of use a comparative analogy to using a specialist. And
if you had something wrong with your brain, you'd want a neurosurgeon, right?
And I don't think we have a neurosurgeon in Andalusia. You'd have to go somewhere else. And same thing for lawyers. We do have great lawyers in Andalusia. In fact, the city employs one on a not full-time.
Well, you want to get the politics out of it too. There's no politics when you get somebody.
That's right. He's completely independent. He doesn't know one property from another in Andalusia. It's not related to
And an ordinance needs to be fair to all people, all concerns, the citizens and the people that own property and the people that are looking to buy and improve property. They need to know where they stand, you know.
Exactly. And that's what this does. This is a fair implementation, and it's very detailed. It describes in great detail of what constitutes an unsafe structure or a property that doesn't meet safety requirements. For example, not only do walls have to be within a certain range of plumb or whatever,
Right.
they can't be leaning, but they're also, if there are fire hazards, and you think about the liability of the city and the city council with regard to sending firefighters into a potential dangerous situation.
Exactly.
If they're shown a situation that would require firefighters to go in and at great risk to their person,
Right.
the city council can't live with that liability.
No,
They have to address that, and if it's pointed out to them and shown to them, that sort of paints them into a corner. They have little room with which to maneuver at that point, and that goes back to this ordinance. It gives the mayor the authority to designate city officials who will make these determinations, but they will be presented to the city council, and the city council will determine whether or not a certain structure is unsafe, but it's based on certain guidelines. So if
Right.
these things are found to exist, then it would be a part of the abatement program, much like the weed abatement system works now.
Who will the building inspector be involved in this, or?
The planning and development director there'd be two officials designated.
Right.
It would be the planning and development director and the fire chief.
Okay.
And it could be a determination by both or either of them
Okay.
with regard to some of these safety issues. But once they made that determination, there's a whole line of things that have to be done after that, and filings and so forth. The property owner has to be made aware of it. The city council would make a determination as well. There'd be several steps, and then there's a filing at circuit court. So there's a complete list of checkoffs, if you will, that have to be done in the process. And it's not a draconian, heavy-handed approach. It's very, very well laid out from A to Z.
It's like any other public document. If you're interested in reading it, you can go down to City Hall, and I imagine they'll
Oh, absolutely.
give you a copy of it.
And as required by law, if the city council, this was the first reading last night.
Okay.
And ordinances have to have two readings.
Right.
The council can suspend the rules and adopt it at one meeting, but they didn't do that last night. They just had the first reading. The mayor went through some of these details as we're talking about now.
Right.
And they're on the 15th of this month, it'll be presented to them again. If they approve it at that meeting, it will be published in its entirety in the Star News shortly thereafter. And that's a requirement for it to become law. It has to be published.
I see you got two openings in the Industrial Development Board.
There are, and the Industrial Development Board is a very active board. We use them. The Industrial Development Board is sort of like the business arm of the city. It allows the city to do certain business things. We can construct buildings, buy property, sell property, and lease buildings back to businesses, and we have several of those active in Andalusia right now. The city can't do certain business activities in and of itself. The Industrial Development Board allows us to conduct business activities.
And that's sort of like what you did with the educational building thing.
Exactly. Very same thing.
Very similar.
Certain powers that the city doesn't have or not given to it by the state of Alabama.
Right.
But the Public Building Authority or the ID Board or different boards and committees of the city do have authority to do certain things, and that's exactly right. That's what allows us to get some of these things.
Well, you know, the auditorium at the high school, I rode my bicycle there before they put seats in. I'm 65, so I must have been at least 55 years ago. And then the stadium was built during.
That was a baseball stadium.
That was a baseball stadium. And what a wonderful part. I mean, it's in a great location, number one.
Right in the middle of town.
And it's right off the bypass.
Right.
And there can be some improvements that might
Certainly.
really, there may be some things that could happen here
That's right.
with sports.
That's right.
Now, I was over at Johnson Park this week, and I noticed that they're building a brand new field over there. Is that a soccer field?
That is a soccer field. We've got soccer as a growing sport and worldwide, probably the fastest growing sport there is, and it's becoming an American sport. It's called football in the world, but we call it soccer. And it's
called a
in
pitch.
popularity.
It's not a field, it's a pitch.
That's right.
Yeah, it's a soccer pitch.
And that's exactly right. We're building a soccer field over there, and it's coming along. The grass is coming in. It's irrigated, and it looks pretty rough right now. But sometime in the next few months, we'll have a good soccer field over there.
So y'all, I know that you have been working on the budget. Has the council been?
Yes, we have a finance committee on the city council, and they have been working on the budget now for several weeks. Our budget's 17 million roughly, and it takes quite a bit of work to get that in its final form, and we have been working for several weeks putting the details of that together. The mayor and a couple of the council members make up the finance committee, and we are honing that right now. The department heads have submitted their requests, and there's a bit of a back and forth, as you know, how that works. So the
I saw the
finished
new garbage
product
trucks.
is
I would have hated to put garbage in them the first time.
yeah, that's kind of
They were kind of
double-edged
clean.
sword, mess up a new garbage
That's what
truck.
I'm saying. Just they were beautiful.
But that's something we've needed for a long, long time, and I know our public works guys are happy to have good equipment to work with. And the mayor says our jobs are to provide our people with the tools necessary to do the work they do every day. They're working hard, and the least we can do is give them what they need to do their jobs. And that was a step.
How the plans coming on South 3 Notch?
They are with the Department of Transportation.
Okay.
The mayor visited with the director of the Transportation Department just a couple of weeks ago, actually. He was in town, and he looked at South 3 Notch Street physically with the mayor, and he reported once he got back to Montgomery that the plans, I believe, were in Montgomery at the time. There's a back and forth process with that the engineering firm works on the plans with our input, and they go to DOT for review, and that takes quite a bit of time back and forth. So it's at the DOT now. We're still looking for a December contract letting for that project. And so
I went to the school this morning. I took Denise out to the grammar school, and I was amazed at how smooth that traffic pattern is out there.
yeah, they've done a great
It's
job.
amazing.
School
It's
board
truly amazing.
and elementary school have done a fantastic job coordinating the traffic. Adding another grade out there, there's a lot more students and parents coming in and out, but it flows flawlessly.
And since I've been working out on the bypass, I'm amazed at how many people go to the beach through Andalusia.
Oh yeah, that beach traffic is a major industry of ours. And
It
that's
really
something that
is,
we
isn't
work on every day. And back to your comment earlier about retail strategies, all of that is tied together, and that's a major business. All the businesses combined is a major business for us.
It really is. Well, John, thank you for bringing the good news. Our listeners, we thank you for watching, and they like for us to explain it a little bit, like in detail,
We're
like
happy
this.
to, anytime.
And it's sort of a laid back format, but it really is informative. And John is one of those kind of people. If you call City Hall, you're going to get an answer. And if you have any questions about anything we talked about, just call down there. They'll
Certainly.
put you in the
Happy
right.
Happy to answer your question. If we don't know it, we may have to run it down. The city's a wide and old operation that every detail can't be known at the moment, but we can certainly run it down.
That's right. Well, thanks for being here, John.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Hey,